Hi everybody, it's Tamara from Etcetera, and today I have the easiest project ever for us to do together. I posted this on my Instagram just last week, I think it was, and it was quite popular and I got lots of questions about how I made it, which I was a little surprised. I thought maybe this project was too simple to do a video on, but there's enough interest, so I think we'll do one. So if you follow me over there on Instagram, you might remember these ones. These are what I started with. So you can do these lots of different ways, and I just I call this like a wallet style journal, and there's lots of different options that you can do with it. And what I would do is probably put this in my purse and use it for notes or lists or whatever you need it for. Or you could put a whole bunch together and put them in a journal. So this one, it's not quite finished, but this one is covered with scrapbooking paper, so it's a little bit heavier. And I cut off this side here, but they're all the same size. Which I'll go over in a second. This one I covered with a napkin with Mod Podge, and it has an elastic closure. And this doesn't have. This would normally have paper inside here, and it has a little. They all have a little pocket here because they're made with a business envelope. And then this one is the most. Well, these last two are the most finished. So this was also covered with a napkin. But what I did first was I stamped my envelope first, and then I Mod Podged my napkin over top, and it becomes quite translucent, and then you can see a lot of the stamping underneath, which is a really nice effect. So you can see this one does have some paper inside, and a little pen, and then it's got a pocket there. And it's got that same elastic closure. And then this last one, this is the one that's the most complete. So I did that same thing where I did some stamping first, and then I covered it with a napkin that had a white background on it, which was what gave it that translucent look. I used a vintage brad and some twine as a closure. This one has an extra pocket on this side that you can add tags or coupons or whatever you need in there. I've done this in sort of the style of a traveler's notebook, where I've just put elastic down and then put my pages underneath so they're not sewn right in. I don't know the actual, I should have looked it up, but I don't know the actual measurements of a traveler's notebook, so I'm not going to call this a traveler's notebook. It's just sort of that style where you could, when you're done with these pages, you could pull them out and you could slip a new set in if you wanted to. And then of course, again, there's a pocket over here under your flap. Okay, so I'm going to try something else, another different way of doing it. Just because I picked up some vintage gift wrap a couple weeks ago. So I have been wanting to see what happens with this. Hopefully it's not super brittle and breakable, but we'll see what happens. So I start with a business envelope, and I've just covered up some of the printing on the envelope. You don't have to do this if you're using a heavy paper to cover it. If you're using napkins and decoupaging napkins over top, definitely cover any watermarks or addresses or labels or anything like that. This particular envelope is, I got my measurements here, 7.5 by 10.5 inches. Okay, and then the end that is the bottom of the envelope, I'm just going to bend that up around 2 inches. Does not have to be exact. Just make sure your top and bottom sort of line up so that it's straight-ish. And then this folded edge comes over to your closure edge, your flap, and it just folds up to that edge. I hope that makes sense. And that just gets folded as well. So it ends up being, let's see, just over 4 inches, I think. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 inches and like an eighth or something like that. And that just depends on the size of your envelope. So remember those first ones, I cut this extra piece off, but I started to think about how much I would really prefer that flap underneath. So I'm leaving it on now. Okay, so there is sewing involved in this, but you don't have to sew. You can stick strictly with the glue if you want. But what I like to do is Mod Podge my paper down first, and then I'm going to sew around the edges. So let's just start there. Oh, my Mod Podge is getting really gooey. Okay, so I'm going to start on this side with the flap because it's, and you don't have to fold your paper first. I just like to just so that it sort of starts to train the paper, tells you, you're telling it where you want it to go. Ooh, I'm going to put something underneath this so that I don't get even more glue on my mat. So we want it to go right up to the edge. Hopefully the lighting on this video isn't too bad. I wanted to start taping this earlier this morning and I just didn't get around to it. Other things started happening. But right now where I live, I don't have that much daylight. It starts to get dark around 4 o'clock-ish, give or take. And it stays dark until probably about 8. I'm not sure. I go to work in the morning at about 7. Well, I'm supposed to be there at 7:30. So just before 7:30 I leave for work. And it is dark, like middle of the night dark still. And then when I get out of work at the end of the day, it's starting to get dark again. Which can be a little depressing, but just have to make the most of it. Okay, so I'm going to lay this paper down. Get it to lay flat. There we go. And it's okay that I'm going over the edges and I'm not lining everything up because I'm going to cut it all off after. I just find that's far more accurate and easier than trying to line up straight edges. That can be a real pain. Okay, oh, I think this one will be pretty. Okay, so I'm going to cut that. Oh, you can see it's not exactly straight, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be when I've got such a nice floral page. I'm going right up against the edge. There. And I think I am going to do all of the edges right now. So today, when I'm filming this, it is Black Friday. I don't really get too caught up in all that stuff, mostly because I have enough stuff as it is. I don't need to go out and buy extra stuff just because it happens to be on sale. So I try not to get into that. However, I did go to Michael's today because they had buy one paper pad, get the second one free, and I absolutely do not need more paper, but I couldn't resist. I was weak. Alright, so there is one side. Ooh, so pretty. Okay, and so now I'm just gonna do the other side. And, whoops, you know what I'm going to do? Where's that piece of paper? I'm going to put this under that opening at the top just to make sure I don't accidentally glue my envelope shut. There we go. If you have napkins, try this with napkins first, because they're so pretty when you decoupage with them. They have such a nice effect. And you could even layer images with napkins. Like I said, there's a stamping, but you could also just layer different kinds of napkins too, and you'd get a whole different effect. All right, let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to put this down on here. I'm going to go a little over. Not even going to try to line it up. Whoops, sorry, shaking the table. Okay, there we go. So far, this paper doesn't seem too bad. I wasn't too sure about it. The plastic that was covering it was very brittle, so I don't know how old this paper is, but I'm sure it's been around since, I'm going to guess at least the 80s probably, just from the look of it. Alright, so now you could also, if you have a nice big piece of paper like I do, what I could have done is wrapped it right around and not fiddled around with all this cutting. Or yeah, that would be even easier. I don't always take the easy route, I guess. Okay, here we go. There we go. Now, how do we get in here, you're thinking? Well, don't get too caught up about matching the edge of the envelope. Just try to get it kind of even and straight and make it look nice. You could even pull out the scallop scissors. Whoops, sorry, I'm out of frame. There we go. Because that's usually going to be closed anyways, right? So don't worry about that. Alright, now what you can do is put another layer of Mod Podge over top, just to really seal it in. I'm not sure if this needs it or not. Let me see here. What you could do is get the sparkle Mod Podge out and go to town on your outside layer. I might have, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to resist. Alright, but okay, so there we go. Folds over nicely. It's all down nice. What I am going to do, I don't think I'm going to Mod Podge on the outside just yet. I think what I'm going to do is go and do my sewing around the edges. So the first thing I'm going to do is go all around the outside, including this bottom edge. And then I'm going to fold that, and then I'm going to re-sew just this folded over section. And before I do that, I think what I might do is put a little ink on this edge. Just because I can see this pattern is so busy that edge sort of disappears once it's folded in, right? So that gives it just a little bit more distinction. I'm just going to trim that just a tiny bit. There we go. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I will be right back. Okay, that just took a couple of minutes. As you can see, I went all the way around, including that closing flap. Went all the way around the edge, flipped over the bottom, and then just re-sewed these sections here. So now I've got a nice little tuck spot. That's really the basic, the body of it. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do your closure. I'm going to use this great big huge brad that I have. You can just do a use your punch, hole punch, and just make a hole and put some nice hole reinforcers around it and call it a day. But I'm going to go with this. And I'm just putting a small hole in there. You know what I'm going to end up doing. Anyways, that, and I'm going to use some twine as well because it just looks, so this is a very shabby chic looking one here. And I'm just guessing at how much length I need. It's probably way more than enough. Yep, that's lots. Okay, so I'm going to put that in, and then before I put it right down, I put my string or my twine underneath, and then I maybe do a little knot in it and let it fall underneath the brad. I don't use, I'm new to using brads and that kind of thing, so I don't know if I'm doing this correctly, but that's how I'm doing it. Now these are vintage, and they have these lovely little closures that go on the back that I don't think come with modern brads, not that I've ever seen. So you put that on, and then you open it up. There we go. Now, you can just leave that as is, but I think I might, let me see if one of my scraps will cover that. Yeah, I'm going to lay a strip down that covers up that back of that closure a little bit. So I'm just putting the Mod Podge down again. This is not fancy. And Mod Podge, I don't think it really works that well with metal, but there's enough paper on either side that that should hold. And I'm just going to stick this strip right down there. You know what? I didn't even check to see if that was straight. That's fine. There we go. Stick it down. And then trim it. And you don't have to do this step, or you can, if you're using a napkin, you can see I actually covered on this one, I covered that hole inside of that. That's probably the smarter thing to do. But this one I just had this little scrap, so that's what I'm using. And I like to just use up all those scraps and use what I got. Makes it much better for my junk pile. Okay, so, oh, it needs some papers inside, right? So I'm just going to steal these ones, and actually, I'm just going to steal this. Oh, I can't. I need something to hold my papers in, so just give me 1 second. Okay, I've got some elasticized cord. This is just from the dollar store. I think if I use this pink, it should go well enough with it. So on this one, I actually made 2 small holes to hold the elastic in. You don't have to do that. If you don't want, you can just wrap it around. I'm not sure how well it'll stay in there, but let's see. How much do I want? Okay, I'm going to cut that off. And I think I would feel better if I make a couple of tiny little holes, and I'm just going to make one as near to the bottom as I can without going off the edge, right in the fold, and the same on the other end, obviously. Let's see here. There we go. And then I'll just thread my cording through there. Luckily the hole's big enough. I don't need my glasses. There we go. And then just tie it tight so that it'll stay. That'll keep all your pages in there. And I'm just doing a double knot. That's all I'm doing. There we go. And then you slip your pages in. Ta-da. Ta-da, ta-da. Wrap. So what I do with this is I wrap one cord's going that way and the other cord's going the other way, and then they meet in the front and I tie in a bow. That's just how easy it is. And there we go. Super fast, super easy. It would take a little bit more time if you're using napkins, because you'll definitely want to Mod Podge the outside as well. But you know, you could use fabric. You could use just about anything. I used a straight stitch on my edge. You could use a decorative stitch. You could use a more like a blanket stitch. You don't even have to sew it if you don't want to. You can just use glue. Whatever you want, have fun with it. And these would make really great little stocking stuffers as well. That's what I'm going to be putting in my stockings. Don't tell anybody. Yeah, so I think they're fun, they're easy to make, and they're a great little scrap buster as well. So there you go. There's a couple of different versions. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it makes sense. I hope you have fun, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with. So I'd love it if you post over on Instagram, that you tag me so I can come over and see what you do with your little wallets. Oops, that should go that way. Or if you make your own video, let me know, because I'd love to come and see it as well. So thanks very much, everybody. You have a great day, and don't get too caught up in the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, but enjoy, and I'll see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.